Alright folks, welcome back to the channel. My name is Kevin Duty, and you're watching Duty's Daggers. First of all, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and push the button. It'll be worth it, I promise. Also follow me on Instagram at duties_daggers. That way you'll be all up to date on channel news, and you'll see some cool photos as well. So today we're talking about my best work knives. We're going to do 3 in each category. First category is going to be budget-friendly work knives, and the second category is going to be a little more expensive category for work knives. Under $200 still, but definitely more pricey than the budget options you're going to see here. So let's start with the budget options. All of these knives are right around $45, which is kind of a coincidence. I did not plan that. But when I was just looking up the prices, I found that, they were all almost either exactly $45 or like $46 or $44. So let's freaking do it. First one, the Savivi Praxis. This is a really, really good work knife. It was one of my first Savivi knives I ever got back in the day. And I have done some modifications to this one. I kind of carved these little lines into the G10. I carved in my little emblem there, and then added a lanyard. I'm not usually a lanyard guy, but I figured this one looks pretty good with it. This is a really fantastic work knife. Let's do some quick specs. It's definitely a big knife. You can see I get a full grip, really nice choke up position as well. Blade length is about 3 5/8. Overall is over 8 inches, about 8 1/4, sorry. And then closed length we got 4 5/8. So big knife, very, very, very ergonomically sound, very comfortable in the hand. Choked up, this finger choil is very roomy. You don't feel crammed up in there. Usually when I'm choked up, my thumb kind of goes up here, but if you're back here, you have this nice little thumb ramp to rest your thumb on. We have a nice broad kind of leaf-shaped blade, looks almost kind of like a Spyderco blade a little bit. It gets very thin at the edge, and the blade stock to begin with is pretty freaking thin, so this is a very, very slicey knife. In fact, one of my sliciest, to be honest. We have a drop point style blade, but the tip is not too high. So if you're doing utility cuts, you're not raising your wrist up too high to get to your tip. Action is really good. This thing's on bearings. I've had it for a long time. When I first got it, the action was better, but I've just gotten so much grime and stuff in these bearings over the couple years that I've owned it that it's not quite as drop shut as it used to be. But if you take time to clean out your bearings, this thing absolutely follows shut. Really good detent too. Just a flipper tab on this guy for the means of deployment. Really good flipper tab. Really good detent. This thing is fantastic for 45 bucks. Next, we got the Petrified Fish Beluga. This is the full-sized version. They also have a mini Beluga. This one I've modified a little bit. It was really rectangular before, and I just kind of rounded off the back here. Nothing too crazy. So, when you get it from the distributor, it will look very similar to this here. We have 2 means of deployment. We have a front flipper, which for being a kind of small flipper, it works very well, in fact. We have a fuller, so we can get the reverse flick there. And you can even thumb flick it. It doesn't fly out with much authority when you use the thumb, but you definitely can. Or you can just slow roll it. So I guess there's 3 means of deployment. Or 4 even if you count the slow roll. The action on this knife is great. It's on bearings. Check this out. Super duper falls shut. Bam. Broad blade, similar blade shape to the Savivi Praxis, but the tip is higher on this guy, so you are going to have to lift up fairly high to get to the tip. Definitely doable though. A lot of belly on this knife. Again, this blade comes down to a very, very thin edge, even thinner than on the previous knife. In fact, surprisingly thin down here. A little bit thicker on the blade stock than the Praxis. You can see there. But it does come down to a much thinner edge on this knife, so it's going to be just as slicey, if not a little bit more slicey than the Praxis. Nice micarta. Well, I won't say nice. It's decent micarta. Not super texturized, but it does look really nice. We got a deep carry pocket clip. That works well. This is a good one, especially if you like front flippers. Even if you don't like front flippers, you know, you got the fuller, your reverse flick, thumb action. This is a good one. Alright, lastly, on the budget side of the work knife, this list would not be complete without the Ontario Rat Model 2 in D2, or as some people call it, the R2D2. This is kind of a classic in the knife world. For its value, this is a very good knife. G10 handle scales, not a deep carry clip, but you can replace that with aftermarket ones. Just the blade to handle relationship is really done well. You can see the blade is kind of shifted up from the handle a little bit, so it feels really good and locked in back here. Really good jimping here for your thumb. And there's this flat spot here, so you can choke up really easily too. This is, I guess you'd call it a drop point. It's more of like a straight back design almost. It does kind of slope down a little bit. A lot of belly here. Another interesting kind of cool thing is these edges are a perfect 90, so you can actually strike a ferro rod off the spine of this knife. Didn't come stone washed. I did that myself. This comes in a couple different options. A really good thumb stud action. I mean, this thing just flies right out. I can reverse flick it too, I think. Yeah. Access to the liner lock is okay. Could be a little better, but you can get it easily. This is just it's a tried and true, really good work knife. D2 steel. They also make a much larger version of this that I don't have on hand, the Rat Model 1. If you want something bigger than this. Oh, I forgot to do specs on the Beluga. We'll go back and do that in a sec. Blade length, 2 7/8 of an inch. Overall, almost exactly 4 inches. And closed length, we got a little over 4. 4 1/8, 4 1/16. Can still get a full grip on it. And choked up, this is a really good knife. Really good knife. Let's go back to the Beluga for a sec and measure the blade. 3 1/2 inch blade. Overall 8 1/8. And closed length is 4 5/8. About 4 5/8. So these are 3 very, very good budget work knives. For $45, I think these are all a very, very good deal. A couple bigger ones, and then one kind of smaller one. Now let's talk about some more expensive work knives. First, the list would not be a good list of work knives without the old PM2. This is a really, really good work knife. This is probably the knife that I carry to work the most. Ergonomically, it just cannot be beat. It really cannot. In the choked back position, you are so just uber locked in. I mean, probably the most locked in I've felt on a knife ever, except maybe the Manix 2. It comes, stock if you don't get a variant or a sprint run with black G10, which is a lot more grippy than this titanium here. S45 VN blade steel, which is really fantastic. Spyderco just does such a good job on their heat treatments that this S45 VN is much better, has much better edge retention than some M390 or 20CV that I own. So it's really, really fantastic. You have the compression lock for really easy manipulation of the knife. Very, very smooth. Reverse flick, thumb flick, or you can just pull down the compression lock and flick it out that way. I mean, you guys probably know it's just an excellent work knife. Doesn't get super duper thin at the edge, but you know, it does the job, and it does it well. This thing is tough. It's built to work. The Spyderco PM2. Next, the XT0562 in titanium. This one is another just really, you know, ergonomic masterpiece. I mean, this one is so freaking comfortable to hold. I think, you know, it's well done. These finger grooves are really well placed. And the fact that you're kind of bumped up to this flipper tab that in the closed position kind of curls up, and in the open position curls down. Just the fact that you're kind of bumped up to that makes you feel so locked in. It's kind of nice to have this guard here to protect your finger. You know, if you're slicing something and it travels up the blade towards your hand, it's going to get caught right here. 20 CV blade, not super thin at the edge. This is just a you know, a work knife, but it for sure slices plenty well. Titanium frame lock, deep carry pocket clip. The Hinder's slicer grind on this guy. This thing is a freaking tank. Definitely the toughest knife on the list. Man, this thing, it just, you know, you hold it in your hand and you just want to start chopping something and slicing and cutting. It's just, you can tell that it's made to get shit done. Alright, lastly, the Benchmade Griptilian. Just a really good knife. Especially this in the sheep's foot version. You know, you have a nice low tip for utility cuts. Yeah, just this sheep's foot blade is so good for EDC for me. We have a nice, you know, a well done sharpening choil here. You have some life in the blade for sharpening. The axis lock, just really easy to use. We have a thumb hole which you can reverse flick or thumb flick, and the handles are made of a I think it's a FRN or GRN plastic. So this thing is really light. We have partial liners, so the liners don't, you know, they're not the full inside of this handle, but that's to cut down on weight. Not a deep carry clip, but you can get aftermarket deep carry clips for this guy. Really locked in too. I mean, it's called the Griptilian for a reason. You know, it feels really good in your grip. Really nice texturing here. We got jimping all around this thing. We got jimping here, got some there towards the back, here on the spine, here on the scales and on the liners, and then even more back here. So very, very, very locked in. Nice thumb ramp. You can choke up a little bit. This is not really meant to be a choke up spot, but you can put a finger there if you want to. Not super duper thin behind the edge. This thing is tough. You know, very robust tip on this guy. You know, really don't have to worry about breaking this tip. It's very thick up here, but it still slices pretty well too. So, very, very good work knife. And then we have an honorable mention, and I really love this knife, but it is discontinued and kind of hard to find. I did find one, or I think there's a couple on, where was it? Knives Plus. I think they have a couple of these for 115 bucks. So I'll put a link to the Knives Plus site down below for this guy. Maybe you guys can get one if you really want one. I have done some modifications to this. This is all titanium. It's a titanium frame lock, but for some reason Kaiser decided to coat the titanium in black around the edges here and in these grooves, and same on the back side up here on the lock bar. And I didn't think it looked very good, so I spent some time sanding this thing down and got it to bare titanium. Then I flame anodized this whole scale, and then I sanded it back again so the anodization is only in those slots. And I think it looks really good. Also anodized the clip. So this thing looks amazing to me now. It still looks okay from Kaiser, but in my opinion I made it much better. I darkened the blade a bit with some ferric chloride. This is a really good Wharncliffe blade. Super thick blade stock, but it comes down to a surprisingly thin edge. A very, very good utility cutter. This is the knife I usually use when I'm leather working to slice my leather. It goes through it like butter. It's insane. Not a deep carry clip, but pretty close. Pretty cool looking clip. You know, kind of cool to have these. You know, it's just a unique clip, titanium. We have these kind of cool milled pivots there. Kaiser used to use these a lot. I don't think they do really anymore. Action on this guy is not great. The D10 is kind of mushy, but this is an old knife, very old knife. I got it used. When I got it, it was completely filled with gunk and just destroyed. So I spent, you know, a lot of time cleaning it and fixing it up. But the D10 is just not how it used to be. I'm sure it was probably much, much better new. But it still pops out just fine with the thumb studs. Not fall shut at all. You can shake it shut, but yeah, ergonomically pretty good. No choke up spot, but you can get a full grip. Put your thumb right up here, and you're ready to do some cutting. The Kaiser Rogue. This thing is really, really good. I really recommend it. This is a fantastic, you know, utility style pocket knife. Really like this thing. And that will complete the list. Let's get all the knives out here if I can fit them. Savivi Praxis, 45 bucks. Petrified Fish Beluga, 45 bucks. Ontario Rat Model 1, 43 bucks. ZT 0562. I wrote that down. 300 bucks. PM2, Spyderco PM2, 170 bucks. Benchmade Griptilian, 126 bucks. Squeeze that in there. And the Kaiser Rogue on Knives Plus right now for 115 bucks. I'll put a link for all of these down below. And that'll about do it. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching. And I'll catch you in the next video. Adios.